and we are here as representatives of various social justice and community organizations to respond to the mayor's community crime press conference that was absent of any community. My statement, I will read a brief statement and then we will have some people come up and highlight some other concerns. The Coalition for Better Public Housing is a coalition of activists and advocates that have come together to respond to the mayor's community crime press conference that was held without community. It is our belief that the murders that are occurring in public housing are part of a 2-year upswing that has been caused by 10 years of consistent mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. That we believe that in the interest of improving the lives of the residents of public housing, that we are asking the state and or federal offices of HUD to remove the current management of RRHA and place RRHA into receivership. We are asking the state and federal offices to stop overlooking the continued atrocities that are occurring in public housing. We are asking Mayor LeVar Stoney to do the job that the citizens of Richmond, Virginia have elected him to do, which is to take this city into a new direction and not double down on a 10-year-old failed public policies of deconcentration, mixed-use housing strategies, a 10-year anti-poverty conversation that has resulted in a failing community wealth building strategy that does not address suffering nor provide pathways forward. These housing and wealth building strategies are doing more to increase the gentrification of black communities and compress the poor into smaller areas than to provide greater access to improve quality of life. You know, we are here because we really need that the housing management, we need a housing management that is concerned about human lives and not just land grabbers and gentrifiers. We need a management that is concerned about the physical, mental, and economic health of public housing residents. This current leadership is a continuation of 10 years of leadership that have failed these communities. In absence of any concern by political leadership or management in this city, we are asking the state and federal government to step in and save lives. We are drowning here. We are dying here. I will now have statements from Ms. Lynetta Thompson, followed by Nathan Bayard, followed by Amari Guevara. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lynetta Thompson, and I'm here before you as the past president of the Richmond NAACP branch. I share these credentials because for the past 2 years, I've had direct interaction with the Redevelopment and Housing, Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authorities and Mr. TK Somanath in that capacity. I stand here in opposition to Mr. TK proposal that public house residents will live better and be safer if they receive housing vouchers and moved into safer neighborhoods. Mr. Somanath also states that he believes public housing has outlived its use. And lastly, Mr. Somanath stated HUD no longer has the funds to maintain the maintenance and the upkeep of public housing. Presently, Richmond Redevelopment and Housing has over 4,000 housing units throughout the projects. If every resident was provided $500 or $500 voucher a month, which we know that those vouchers range from $500 to $1,000, but let's just say 500. So stay there. For 1 year, HUD or the taxpayers would have distributed $24 million in rental costs for that 1 year. That same money that Mr. Somanath is requesting from HUD to provide vouchers for residents to move to a safer neighborhood, we are requesting that these funds be redirected into building a safer, cleaner, and protected community where they presently live. We are requesting that HUD, Housing Urban Development, invest in empowering and strengthening the lives of these residents through home ownership and esteemed building. We all agree that if you invest in your own property, own your property, not only do you take better care of it, but your neighbor and your community take better care of what belongs to them. People should not have to leave their community to feel safe. People should not have to be forced to choose between reporting crimes to the police or themselves being victimized or fear of retaliation. If Mr. Somanath was running a corporation in the same manner that he is running public housing with a track record of pure negligence and mismanagement of the company funds, he would have been fired many months ago. These residents and their basic needs have been put on the back burner for many years. Any opportunity for economic development, educational, and environmental concerns are non-existent. It is time for a strategic change. If you want public housing residents to take responsibility for what's going on within their community, then give them the responsibility and the opportunity to own their community. Public housing residents are more than capable of policing their community with the proper tools, training, and resources. We are calling for Mr. TK Somanath termination and for the mayor during his housing summit to request that HUD redirect tax-paying money to reinvest into community housing ownership initiatives and development programs. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Dion, and I'm here on behalf of the residents of public housing in the city of Richmond. I only have a few minutes to address you about things that are missing at RRHA. But before I tell you that, let me inform you that RRHA gets a passing grade on economic development as it relates to bricks and mortar. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that economic justice and economic empowerment, they fail miserably. The sad truth is the missing elements which would turn our public communities around 180 degrees must include commitment to growth, a desire to see people prosper, and the basic love of all people. One would think these items would be at the top of RRHA's to-do list in support of their mission, vision, and values, which are clearly identified on their website. The fact is, they are not. Our public housing communities perpetuate hopelessness, poverty, and I'm sure post-traumatic syndrome from the years of violence witnessed or being affected by the violence. There are things RRHA can do immediately to address the above. Changes procurement methods to create job training, opportunities for residents. This should include the following: require contractors to hire job-ready applicants for entry-level positions for any work being done in public housing communities. Incentivize contractors to hire minority contractors and follow Section 3 guidelines. And the way you can do that is when you have a proposal that goes out, an RFP, and the only 5 points is rewarded for minority participation, that says that I have no interest in protecting the public or the persons that that's living in these communities. Provide training to residents to become job ready. This is done by using current training facilities and train both female and male residents in ongoing work which is performed daily in public housing communities. These skills include landscaping, painting, janitorial, office cleaning, minor electrical and plumbing, finished carpentry, small engine repair, and roofing. This could be taught by RRHA staff or a contracted service. In addition, Residents should be trained to self-manage their own properties. Providing residents who wish to go into business for themselves training opportunities to obtain state licenses. When TK was asked at the press conference recently if any of the residents would benefit from the work to be done to improve lighting and security, he stated he depends on his partners in the Office of Community Wealth Building. Yes, he passed the buck. It is abundantly clear at this time for change. A change at the top. Mayor Stoney, this city needs someone who is interested in building relationships with its residents, in addition to the developers and partners. We need someone to realize that placing parking stickers on cars and evicting residents will not solve the problems in our public housing communities. Unfortunately, those were the exact actions given by TK at the news conference. When the man at the top answers a reporter's question concerned about the children involved in a household eviction, and the man at the top says that Child Protective Services can get involved, the man at the top must go. Insensitivity is at the root of the problem, and it's becoming more evident the more I have dealings with RRHA residents. These residents need training, opportunities, skill development, hope, justice, and empowerment. I know having employed workers with felony convictions, recovering addicts, and drug addicts that if the spirit is awoken in these developments, the police department's job would be so much easier. These communities would transform, not overnight. This neglect has gone on too long. We must start somewhere. I think we start at the top. TK must go.
Good morning. My name is Omar. I'm the founder of the advocacy group Leaders of the New South. I have a statement. The victims of these excluded communities managed by RRHA are nothing more than pawns in a dirty game being orchestrated by Housing Authority Administration. We can look no further to an example of Charlene Edwards, who lived in her Randolph neighborhood home for 47 years, managed by RRHA, and was told that a $3,000 medical bill was preventing her from securing a mortgage. She is now being forced to move out of her home, but it was all just an illusion of inclusion, an illusion of accessibility of home ownership. When you drive through Randolph, you see many boarded up RRHA homes. It's clear that the area is being prepped for reinvestment by a different demographic than is traditionally lived there. We see countless RRHA-owned properties being auctioned to developers at a time where poverty deconcentration efforts, or should I say neighborhood destabilization efforts, are the popular approach. Let's think about the Creighton development. Where will these residents go? Will they face the same fate as Charlene Edwards? Will they be given a measly 1 year to clean up their credit in the hopes that they can secure a mortgage? Will the average income of a Creighton resident of $7,000 a year be enough for them to secure a mortgage in these new mixed income home developments? My people, there is danger on the horizon. We have seen the reports about urban sprawl and that Richmond ranks 97 out of 100 in transit accessibility. Yet with the transit network plan, there's not one more job being accessed. There are numerous convenience stores that are benefiting from the poverty of black people in Richmond. Medical equipment companies, Richmond public schools, and even RRHA is being funded, paid, incentivized, and enriching by the poverty of black people in Richmond. Where is the community empowerment? We have many organizations serving food to the community, receiving increased funding as food insecurity rates are rising. Where is the community empowerment? Where is the avenue for residents to be empowered to grow their own healthy food, increasing their physical, mental, and community well-being when organizations are forced to jump through hurdles and endure sabotage in order to implement these programs in Mosby Court, for example. Under the reign of TK Somanath, the 15,000 residents of RHA have been effectively disenfranchised and excluded from any real opportunity for upward mobility. It is time for new leadership who wants to do more than serve a perpetual underclass, but who wants to build wealth using the mandated procurement policies which this current RH administration has failed to do. Thank you.
We'll now take any questions that you might have.
Oh, let me see. So the long time model that the city seems to have is literally raise and take down the courts and create mixed-use housing, which they think is going to be a better idea, and they say that they're trying to secure grants and everything else. Are you guys saying that you would rather have that money invested in the existing structures?
We're saying, first of all, we know that the Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority has been consistently cited by HUD for fiscal mismanagement, and they will not be receiving any substantial amount of funding until they clean up their fiscal house. We know that the cost of $200 million just to do Creighton Court is a really unachievable goal. We've been on this strategy of deconcentration and mixed-use development for 10 years now, and I dare anybody to show me where we've had any successes at it. The strategy is simply not being successful. We're saying not only that the money invested in the communities will allow the communities to transform themselves from the bottom up, but we're also saying that there are alternative housing strategies that cost far less money that can begin to move public housing residents to a better quality of life.
And why are you guys? Oh, sorry. And that was not the voucher. You don't like the voucher because you think it's not going to be. It's money wasted.
We right now, the residents of public housing are under federal protection by virtue of the fact that they're on federal land, and we don't think that people should give up their federal protection on promise, on false promises. And if you look at the history of Richmond Redevelopment Housing, they have always failed to keep their promises to the community.
Why are you guys coming forward now? I mean, you mentioned about the crime situation, and yes, the crime has increased. Even crime in public housing has been a factor even before Mr. Somanath has been here. So why now are you coming forward about this?
Well, the reality of it is, this is, as you say, Sandra, 2 years of continued murder and slaughter going on in public housing communities, and for the mayor, the Commonwealth attorney, and the RRHA head to come into a room and suggest that we're going to install some lighting and some cameras and issue some passes as a viable solution to what we know is being driven by an economic crisis in our community is unacceptable. We also are, as community organizations, as social justice advocates, are seeing a continual pattern in the political leadership of excluding community voices and participation, allowing us to participate in our own communities to create our own solutions. And the closed credential press conference was just the most egregious example of a continuation of planning and public policies being driven from the top down, where we are not given a voice. And at this point, we just feel as if after 10 years of mismanagement, misappropriation, with what we're seeing in the community, we have no confidence in our local leadership, and we want state and federal intervention.
Well, why are they excluding you guys? Why is that?
Because their strategy is not the empowerment of these communities. They want the land, they want the communities gone. When you look at the proximity of this community to downtown, this is about further expansion, and so they really do not want to see empowered public housing.
No, but I'm saying you're saying they're excluding community leaders from being a part of the process. Why is that?
You would have to ask the mayor why. Why would he call a presidential press conference and not? Why would you have a conference on community crime and exclude the community?
Did you reach out to them?
Huh?
Did you reach out to them about the issues?
We have consistently reached out to the mayor and public officials and TK. We have been doing this now for over 5 years, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. And as you see, the crime is not getting better. It's getting worse. We had 8 murders this weekend.
What my brother is talking about, this isn't something new. This exclusion of the community from the voices. This is something we've seen from various policies, from the naming of the so-called lumped-in slave jail, from the 33% black people that were included on the transit network plan survey, and when we ended up contacting the community ourselves, a lot of those routes had to be changed, so this is exclusion going on all throughout the community with various policies all layered over on top of these specific geographies, all starting with redlining in the 40s and probably even centuries before that. It's just a continual disinvestment and extraction of wealth from the black community in the city of Richmond.
If you talk to RHA, they say that Blackwell and Doveport are examples of successes. What is your response to their claims that the crime has gone down in these areas that have been decentralized and have been what you are saying?
So Blackwell is a 20-year project that is being completed at gunpoint by the federal government because they have mismanaged funds. Dove Court was the original strategy for Dove Court, included home ownership, which they had to take out of the plan because there was no demand for home ownership. There was no possibility of doing a mixed-use development, and so it became rental property. So, and even then, the residents of Dove Court did not benefit because it took them 7 years to do the project, and the residents couldn't be found after that. And literally, Dove Court is an example of what we're talking about in the fact that there is only one door, and if you don't go through that door, you don't get out, okay? And that is what's occurring. Nathan?
Let me say something about Blackwell. Blackwell is the model for how not to do transformation of people. If the housing authority is calling that a success, ask them where the thousands of people that they have no clue where they went. You're exactly right. That's how they think. We've got some pretty buildings here now, but the people are gone. This is not what people love for people and your fellow human being is supposed to be all about. It's not about coming in, tearing down folks' houses, not giving a damn about them, and then just come up with some pretty shiny buildings and say, what a success. It's a disgrace if RRHA or anyone else use that as a success story.
Worse than that.
The mayor mentioned the October 31st Housing Summit. Have any of you or your organizations been invited to that?
No.
No, we haven't been invited, and if the mayor is going to continue with the current strategy of deconcentration of public housing and a affordable housing policy that is not geared towards the population of people in public housing, then we don't need to go. If the mayor is going to continue to come in press conferences and double down on failed housing and failed economic strategies, then we don't need to go. We need a new housing strategy that allows us opportunity to participate in an economic strategy that benefits the people that it is intended to benefit.
So we have a narrative that we really have to want to believe as true, as authentic truth, as universal truth. We can't keep being spoon-fed or ignored information that doesn't benefit the community members. The numbers of Richmond is 220 plus thousand citizens, members of this geography. By RRHA numbers, it's 4,100 units. which is about 11,000 and some change of people that live here. The poverty rate is 26% that impaneled the Anti-Poverty Commission, which I sat on and was part of recommending the housing navigates that have not been in the community doing any work, and the Office of Community Wealth Building, which I sat on the Maggie Walker initiative as well. So we have some challenges in what real information that benefit community members. So if you take the extrapolation of 11, 12,000, bump it up to 15, take the 26%, it's 57,000, do 60. So you subtract the 15 from the 60,000, you got 45,000 people who by the city numbers and by virtue of all just the people that live in public housing, is 40,000 plus people in abject poverty that do not live in public housing. So why is the strategy about building wealth concentrated on public housing, and that is not a solution for public housing? And we recognize the process of starting small. But if you're starting small and your solutions do not benefit the small number, then you have 100% of decimation, because you don't have a policy for the 40,000, and in the 15,000, it disrupts their family life. End of story.
Just your name, first and last name.
Lily A. Estes, Community Strategy.
We'll take one more question.
So what is the solution then? What is the solution to this?
The residents.
If it so happens that he resigns or steps down or whatever, where do you go from here?
It's not as easy as that. It is conclusion at the planning table so that we can carve out a self-determination, inclusive process that benefits everybody around. I used to sell real estate. I ain't got no problem with building communities with a business mind, but that it needs to be inclusive of the people in abject poverty. We own businesses.
You know, and then let's be honest, you know, this is also the state HUD office is complicit in this. The federal HUD office is complicit in this. This is 10 years of mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. And while they have cited RRHA and demanded that they pay back a small amount of money for 20 years, they are just slapping the wrist of mismanagement. And so we need the state office of HUD to do their job. We need the federal office to do their job and come in here. And if they don't want to do their job, have the CDC put a bubble on this place and figure out what is wrong, because there is certainly a long-term systemic disease that is emanating out of this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone have any idea? TK has been interim for some 2.5 years.
No, I think
He's been made permanent.
Yeah,
Permanent? Permanent?
Yeah, he was made permanent. Yeah.
When did the permanent happen?
About 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Did they make an announcement? They have a press release or something that they sent?
Yeah,
Because I don't remember
they
seeing
made
it.
it.
probably released a press statement.
It's in your paper.
And it came with a nice raise.
Yeah.
And what?
It came with a nice raise.
I work for the paper.
Is there anybody
No,
here
I'm
from the
talking to
Office of
Michael.
Community
I'm
Wealth
talking to
Building at
Michael.
all?
What's your phone number? So I have
I
it.
have somebody who wants to know.
I didn't hear you.
If anybody from the Community Wealth Building office showed up at all here today? Anyone?
No.
No.
Okay, that's been sealed.
Where's the guy who asked the question about Blackwell? Made a comment about Blackwell. The
Right
guy on
behind
the
you,
camera.
sir.
I'm looking at new faces with the media. Y'all have no idea.
Now, I just don't have makeup on, but you know me. Mark.
No,
Come on
I'm
now.
saying you're new to Richmond. My point is, HUD declared Hope 6 in Blackwell the poster child of how not to do Hope 6 nationwide. It's an abject failure.
Do you all have any numbers? I mean, I'll ask them, but any numbers on how many residents of Blackwell and how many residents of Dove Court ended up in the new developments?
Yeah.
Training program currently.
I was a part of the community voice in that Hope 6 process, community meetings. If 10 families got returned to the new development in Blackwell, I'll eat your hat. 10 families. There were 438 units in Blackwell, and those people were not returned. In fact, they intentionally kept other public housing development units vacant because they knew they were going to move Blackwell residents into other developments. the worst possible thing you can do when you know that these communities fight each other. And some of those Blackwell families caught holy hell over in Fairfield Court because they came from Blackwell. They go to school, they transferred their schools. The whole 9 yards, they fought them in the schools. It was horrible, an abject failure. Anybody today that claims success in Blackwell is an idiot.
Marty Jewell, ladies and gentlemen.